Let me show you the difference between burnt umber and Van Dyke brown. We'll be looking at their main differences in color temperature. When diluted with some mineral spirit, we can see the true shade of these browns. With the burnt umber, we see a warm, orangey red undertone, which is very typical for this brown color. When we dilute the fairly darker Van Dyke brown with the same spirit, we see an even more opaque color with much more tinting strength. We can also see that it's a more neutral and grayish brown. And when we add the well-known raw umber to the comparison, we see a more transparent or rather semi-opaque brown with a cooler color temperature. More of a green-yellowish shade of brown. So we have a warm, a cool and a neutral brown color. Burnt umber is one of the first pigments used by humans and is still amongst the most popular brown colors in the world. When we mix it with some Old Holland Yellow Deep, a warm off-white, we get softly muted and warm brown colors, often used in portraits and landscape paintings. Burnt umber has always been widely used by the great master painters. When we take a look at this masterpiece by Rembrandt, we can see the extensive use of umbers all over the canvas. We find a lot of burnt umber used in the slightly warm and beautiful shadows of the face. Van Dyke brown, on the other hand, is a very different animal. It is a very dark, almost blackish brown color, with hardly any saturation in it. When we mix it with the same Old Holland Yellow Deep, we get much cooler browns that lean more towards grays than to straight browns. Can be a very beautiful color to mute down your other colors with. In this painting by Anthony van Dyck, after whom this brown color is named, we see that the browns he used are much more neutral and grayish overall, giving room for the more saturated colors, such as the reds and the yellows. Mixing burnt umber with cinnabar green light, a very saturated and bright color, we get warm and lush green colors that are very well suited for landscape painting, giving greens with a slight orangey brown shade. When we mix the same cinnabar green with the Van Dyke brown, we get greens that are cooler and also more muted, grayish greens. Very good for landscapes also. When we mix burnt umber with some cadmium yellow extra deep, a bright and saturated orange yellow, we get very warm and beautiful vivid browns. In the midtones, we get a color that draws a lot towards a natural ochre, but with more saturation and more tinting strength. Wonderful warm colors that look natural and can be very useful in portraiture and landscape painting. When we mix the same cadmium yellow extra deep with the Van Dyke brown, we again see a big difference. The browns we get now are more muted and also much cooler, drawing towards gray-greenish browns. So, using burnt umber gives us warm browns and also warm colors in the mix that are more saturated. And using Van Dyke brown gives us more grayish browns and more muted colors in the mix that are cooler. They can work very well as a set of warm and cool browns in your palette. I hope this video helps. Thank you.